Hey peeps, I'm Michelle.
Hey, it's Kat.
Hey everyone, I'm Natalie.
Hey, what up? It's Faith.
Hey, it's Lori.
Hey, Sydney.
And this is the Red Lips and Mic Drops podcast.
Red lips and mic drops, big hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk.
Welcome back to Red Lips and Mic Drops. Take it away, Kat. Spinning the wheel.
Are we all ready for the wheel?
We're ready for the wheel.
Oh my god.
It's like silence. You can cut it with it.
Well,
Michelle.
mental health awareness and stigma.
Michelle's like, can we get another one? I ain't got the mental bandwidth for this one.
Oh, man.
Mental health awareness and stigmas.
That's a lot.
I think it's a good topic, one that I can kind of like take the back seat to since I know a lot about it. But I think that like hearing the topic from people who are in the community and what it feels like for everyone else to see what mental health awareness looks like to the population as opposed to myself. You see what I mean? Like,
yeah,
how you guys see mental health. I think that's a good thing. I'll jump in, of course, but I think that it's good for you guys to also talk about.
No,
like,
I'm asking for a free therapy session right now. So
mental health awareness and stigma. Kat, what are your thoughts?
with me.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I will tell you guys this, and I'll just start by saying this. I do have depression, but people, and Michelle, you know this very well, but people put depression in this box. Like they think it's like cutting your wrists and taking medicine and popping pills all the time. And it's, for me, it's not that at all. I did have a phase in my life, an experience in my life where I was in a horribly abusive relationship. And I did have like those thoughts of what if I were just gone? You know, that was like the deepest depression I had ever been in. But I realized like just recently, after going to therapy a couple of years ago and saying like, I have these moments where I'm just in bed all day, you know, like where I don't want to shower. And I never had like talked to somebody about this before until I went to therapy because I felt like I was in this safe space and I was still so ashamed of it, you know? And she was like, why are you so worried? Like what is making you feel that way? Like you can't say this. And I said, because I'm not normal. Like I'm fucked up, you know, like that's how I felt. And I started bawling my eyes out. I'm like, I'm a mess. And she's like, you're not though. Like a lot of people suffer depression and they don't even know it, you know, like it's forgetfulness. And Michelle, I don't want to speak to this because you know way more about this, but it's forgetfulness. It's laying in bed and it's like this extreme heavy weight of no motivation. Like that's what it is for me. Like you can't get me to do shit when I'm depressed. I am like, it could be the nicest day of the summer in Pennsylvania. Keith has tried to get me to go hiking at some points. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing, I love hiking. It's the things that you love doing that bring you the most joy that you don't want to do. You have no interest in doing. So I have battled with that on and off. And I finally addressed it while I was 28 at the time when I said that to my therapist and I opened up to her. And it just goes to show you that there is still such a huge stigma surrounding mental health and depression and anxiety and bipolar and all of those personality disorders and all of the stuff that comes with it that are actually quite normal, not normal, but they're diagnosed often. And there's still such a huge stigma. And we want to think that we're perfect and we don't need therapy and we don't have to do any of this stuff. But the reality of it is that we're human and we're all fucked up. Like we really are. And that's my take right now. I just wanted to share that with everybody. I don't want people to think, oh, I'm depressed and I'm abnormal because I felt like that. And if you ever feel like that, talk to someone, talk to a professional like Michelle, and talk about it. Cause I didn't have that space in my life to do so until recently, which is kind of scary.
Yeah. Faith, you're next on my list. What are your thoughts?
So I have a lot on this subject actually, because so growing up, we were we were a really close family, but we traveled all the time. And we were a family that we did not ask for outside help. Like, we did things on our own. And so as an adult, and especially as an entrepreneur, like, I have the hardest time reaching out for the help that I need because no, I've got this. I've got this. Like, I'm launching into a coaching program of my own, and it's like, I've got this. I don't need any help. I've got this. But when it comes down to it, I don't got this. Like, I need to have that. And so battling with those emotions, like when Kat was explaining, like, there's things that you just don't want to do. Like, you have this immense amount of weight on you, then you don't want to perform. You don't want to do anything. I don't know if it's, for me, it's like running. And so I just realized, like, just on this damn call, like, this could be depression for me. Like, I've never normally battled with depression. I'm always happy. I'm always looking for the bright side and the positive side. And I'm always striving and rushing and going. And maybe I don't give myself time enough to ever realize that I'm there. But now things have slowed, and now I realize I am there. And so for me, it's just, I think, realizing that I'm there and asking for the help that I need and not bottling it up like I'm so prone to do. Like, you put the wall up and you don't let people in, because then if you let people in, they can see how broken that you really, really are. And so to make things happy for others, put the wall up, nobody sees the broken. Nobody can ever notice the broken because I never let them in. So for me, and you can tell I'm getting so red on here, but so it's a very deep subject for me. And I know there's a lot more out there that are suffering from it than with me, not just me, but it's, I don't know. It's a massive, massive thing. And it really pisses me the fuck off when people say, oh no, it's just depression. Go get a pill for it. Go take a pill for it. No, I don't want to fucking take a pill. I want to learn how to deal with it. If I run and hide from it all the time, then, like, what's the point in that? You can't run from everything all the time. You have to learn how to deal with it. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox now. I may have more at the end. I don't know. But next, passing the baton.
Your opinion is not a soapbox. Not a soapbox. Natalie, your thoughts?
Thanks, Faith, for sharing all that. And Kat, I have a lot of thoughts on mental health and stigmas. A lot of people, my background in schooling and stuff like that was in forensic psychology, even though I'm a makeup artist now. So I do have a lot of feelings about it. I've dealt with my own depression, my own anxiety issues in my life. And I think the stigmas, that come with mental health are, again, from generational stuff, right? We were all pretty much raised with parents of a generation that shamed mental health, that made people feel bad if they had a problem or needed to seek therapy or whatnot. I think every single person should have therapy in their life. I think it's a wonderful tool. Even if you're not depressed, it's just a wonderful tool to help you learn your own way of dealing and coping with life, because every single person has to, right? So we all have to learn. I don't like the whole just give everyone a pill. Sure, I'm not against medicine that helps. So I want to put that out there. And some people do have very major chemical imbalances that medicine will help them, and they shouldn't be shamed for taking medicine. But the whole, just like Faith was saying, just go on a pill and you'll be fine, as opposed to learning the tools to help. That's why I believe in therapy, and I believe that every single person should seek therapy at some point in their life, even if things are good. Right? Because I've been in a situation where my life was going pretty amazing and it was ripped away from me overnight. And had I not had any of those tools throughout the therapy that I had done, or the energy healing I had done, or the coaches that I had met in my life, I probably would have derailed really badly and gone down a dark path. And I'm not shaming anybody if that's happened to them, but if there are things available to us to cope and to learn to the tools to gain when we're having those moments in our life, I think that there should be no stigma around that. I think that it should be every single person at some point in their life is going to battle something that they didn't think they were going to have to battle or go through. And that's okay. And it's okay to respond with, if they become depressed, if there's anxiety, if there's the PTSD and stuff like that. And so I just think that we shame mental health because it's a projection of our own selves, right? It's, if somebody says they're depressed and you're feeling depressed, you might feel shame within yourself in depression, or you might feel like, well, I shouldn't be depressed if that person's depressed. And so then we shame them for that depression, or we shame somebody for having a mental health episode, stuff like that. So for me, mental health is a huge background of mine. It's a huge subject as well for me, but I really think that we all should feel okay if we do need to seek help for something. So that's me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. My experience has been, so for so long, it was, you don't need to show emotions, don't have emotions, right? Keep everything in. And for so long, I was told I was cold and unfeeling, whereas everything was just so deep down inside and I didn't let people in. And to the point where, my marriage ended almost, and, we split, and some traumatic things happened, and loss of family members, and then splits within the family, and infighting, and all of these things. And I was in a relationship with a toxic person and horrible, all of those things. And I hit a bottom point. And I went to therapy at the encouragement of my mother, because she eventually started to get things right in her own space. And that experience was obviously life-changing, because it led me down a path of, rekindling my relationship with my husband, getting our family back together, healthy conversations, being able to work through problems, getting tools, all of those things. Had I gotten help earlier because of, and ignored the stigma of it, I probably, our relationship may not have dissolved and had that 3 years of separation and all of the things that go with it, having, our daughter going back and forth between houses and all of those things, right? So for me, the mental health piece and the stigma with it, it is so tough to ignore, but so important to get help if you're having mental health issues. And screw what anybody else says, go and get help. Like, that's eventually where you have to go with it, right? That's my feeling on it. Michelle, I want to hear what you have to say with this.
I have so much to say about mental health. For a person myself, I do have depression, anxiety, and I also have CPTSD from childhood abuse. And I've been even told by people, like, how can you help other people if you're crazy? And obviously I didn't respond to that comment because it wasn't really worth my time or effort to educate someone. But I feel like it's really like brought from the bottom up. It's in society, it is in our families. If you ever watch a movie that has a therapist or psychologist in it, they are not well themselves, right? You got these deranged therapists out there in these movies. Yeah, it makes for a great movie, but it doesn't help our field one bit. That's the first thing I usually explain to potential clients calling in is, I'm not Freud. You don't lay on a couch. We aren't going to do any of those things that you've seen in the past. And then the terms that we use for people, right? That you're just crazy, or when we see someone that's mentally ill, that we don't teach our children how to see people with mental illness. I think I've done a pretty good job with my own children, because they know that I see people that are severely mentally ill at times. And my children just see them as people in society, and they're just a little different. But I think that we as a whole fear what we don't know. And then also we always want to say, like, maybe it's not that bad. Anything with addiction, depression, anxiety, even schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, you name it, your family's going to tell you that it's not that bad. Or again, like Faith said, go take a pill. And that's the first question I often get, even from clients. And I have to kind of pull them back a bit and give some education. Just because you see a commercial about a medication, you don't have to take it. Damn, we see commercials of hamburgers and we're not all in the drive-through, right? So I educate clients of how we can combat depression and anxiety, specifically with your diet, with exercise, with freaking water, with sleep, with sex. There are so many things that we can do holistically that will help us through our own depressive or anxious episode, that we don't have to run to medications. And we have to remember that, you know, pharmaceutical companies, and I won't jump into that whole thing, but pharmaceutical companies are ran, you know, government agencies and the whole yada, yada. They make money by putting us on pills. And they make money by making our society sick. And yet we run by the caseloads to the pharmacies to grab these medications and not really learn how we can do it ourselves with simple diet and exercise, some good sleep, bottle of water, and a sexual partner, and we're good. So I think I could go on that for days and days, and also to normalize mental health. I share my mental health struggles on social media platforms with my clients because I want to normalize mental illness. And not everyone that I see, I classify as mentally ill. But again, as a society and us as practitioners are ran by insurance companies, and insurance companies mandate that we diagnose people. People then want to know what this diagnosis is because we want to know what the doctor thinks about us, right? If you go in for a broken leg, the doctor's not going to say, no, I think that's too harmful for you. I'm not going to let you know you have a broken leg. They're going to tell you you have a broken leg. But in mental health, I pull back from giving clients diagnosis because I don't want them walking around with I'm depressed on my forehead when they're having a bad week or they're having a breakup or, you know, something's going on with their kid or they're just having a bad season in life. And because we don't normalize it as a society, and I try to do my best in therapy to let my clients know this is your diagnosis because your insurance company requires me to stamp you with something, but this is what we're really doing and what we're really working on, because all of us have a mental disorder at times. And yet I don't think that we all benefit from having a diagnosis. We benefit from the tools that we get to help us through those things. We benefit from understanding how our bodies work on its own and the fuel that we put in it to help us through those things. We don't benefit at all from the medications and the, diagnosis, unless, again, you have your severe mental illnesses, your bipolar, schizophrenias, those things that typically do better on medication. But for most of us that we just have a shitty day or a shitty week, that your therapist has to diagnose you with depression to talk to you, I think is bullshit.
These are episodes. Like, this isn't your whole life. Like, you're not always in a state of depression. And she always talks about gut health all the time. Like, did you know how it's connected to the brain? I'm like, I don't know. And she started sending me articles and giving me magazines, like things that I could read about gut health and just getting out and walking. Michelle does her walks every day. And it is so helpful. Like those little things.
They would just have to normalize it. This is, we all have these episodes and we all have these times in our life that isn't great. there's nowhere that I've ever read in any book that says that we are going to be happy all of our days. I don't know where we've ever gotten that information, but it's a fucking lie. And we've got to get over it and embrace our good days with our bad days. Know that makes us human and not a robot. And that, again, my remedy to a lot of my clients that have anxiety and depression is, yeah, no wonder you're depressed. You haven't fucking eaten a thing today and it's 6 p.m. Like, I would be depressed if I didn't eat. You didn't drink any water. Teenagers are the worst. But, again, take a walk, eat some good food. And I don't mean drive-through burgers, home cooked whole food. Drink water, sleep, have sex, and sit back and watch a movie that's going to make you laugh. That is going to do exactly the same thing. And don't forget sunlight. That's going to do exactly the same thing for your brain that antidepressant does.
Yeah.
But the pharmaceuticals aren't going to tell you, because what I just gave you was free.
Right.
Like, I could tell when some of my friends are on anxiety meds, because they're like all chilled out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've had to work with some clients through a detox period. There's an actual with your benzodiazepines, which are your Ativan, Xanax, and all that bullshit. People go through a detox. My idea of medication is, if it could be sold on the streets as a drug, don't take it.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't take it.
I shared earlier about my childhood and stuff like that. I didn't suffer like from depression or whatnot. I didn't even know what it was, and it was never even crossed my mind. And we weren't afraid to talk to counselors and stuff. It just wasn't ever brought up. Like, it just was never brought up. Like, and then when I met my husband in the military, that's when it was brought up. Because in the military, you don't talk to the counselor, because then you get something on your record, and then, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes downhill from there. Then you're a broken soldier or whatever, because you have a mental health issue, which in the military has one of the highest mental health rates ever.
Yeah.
Is in the military.
Yeah.
And as far as for the medicine goes, and as far as for like the diagnosing, I loved what Michelle had to say, because when you get a diagnosis, you walk around in that box. You walk around believing that you're a broken person. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I never went in. Like, I don't get therapy. I don't go to therapy. I don't do any of that. And and maybe this is just me poppycocking, I don't know, but I don't feel like I need it, because I get it in other ways. Like, I get my therapy in other ways, listening to podcasts, listening to different things like that. But I believe that a mental health issue is never a reason to stop doing or being human either. It's not a reason to act like an ass. It's not a reason to be dysfunctional. Like, it's not a reason. It shouldn't never be a monkey on your back. Like, oh, I can do that because I have a mental health issue. Oh, I can do this because I do have family members that do those things. Like, oh, I've got a mental health issue. I don't give a fuck if you have you need to take care of yourself. That's the thing. That's the biggest thing. Is if you know you have a mental health issue and you know all of these things, then you have to do the things to help yourself. If you're not, then you're being a bigger burden on yourself and society and everyone around you. So whether that is taking the holistic stuff, or whether that is actually going and getting on medicine, because that might be what you need. But like, you have to figure out that balance for yourself as well. So
your mental health is up to you, right, to take care of. And mental health cannot be an excuse to abuse anybody, right? Right. You cannot use your mental health to abuse people. And when I say it's on you to take care of, if you feel like something's wrong or something's not going right, it is up to you to kind of recognize that, but have to have the right people in your life too, to not make you feel ashamed of that. And like what Faith was saying is, you can't then in turn, because you're feeling a certain way, treat others poorly, or also put your stuff onto them, right? And expect that they're just going to take all of your abuse or your projections, and then, well, it's okay because I was having a bad day and I was depressed and it was a thing. Now, there are some mental health disorders, as Michelle was talking about, that do unfortunately come out that way, and there is medication for those people to have to take, and that shouldn't be ashamed of it. And unfortunately, you usually do get abused sometimes by those people when that happens. So it's just creating the boundaries with them. But, you know, like Michelle was saying, there are so many different ways to help yourself in mental health: eating right, seeking holistic ways, meditation, stuff like that, if that calls to you. And then if you want to see a therapist, if that calls to you too, you shouldn't feel bad about that. If you think medication will help you, you shouldn't feel bad about that. And like Bria was saying, you really have to make sure that if you tell somebody, I'm going through this. I went through a situation where I told a few people something I was going through, and they took it upon themselves to make fun of me and shame me behind my back because of that. Those were not my people, right? Those were not the people. And I allowed that to then affect me more, as opposed to when I told just one other person what was going on. They were like, what? Natalie, what? Like, you're depressed. Like, it's okay. Like, you're going through this hard time. So again, like Bria was saying, if somebody says you're too sensitive or you're too neurotic or whatever they want to call you, just take it with a grain of salt and then do your own kind of like assessment of yourself. If that makes sense. I don't know, Michelle, if you agree with that. Kind of like, am I too sensitive? No, I'm feeling a certain way. Nobody is too sensitive, right? That's just like a made up thing to make other people feel better when they're not as sensitive. And so just recognize that you might need to seek some help in different ways, and it's okay for that.
The things that we learned when we had our therapy was that I understand because I understand you feel this way because I understand you feel this way because, and that's what we learned, and it worked really well for us, and everybody's experience is very different and everything, but it helped us to say, okay, I'm really seeing it from their perspective, but I'm not putting my own spin on it. Like,
Right.
And like Natalie was saying with the projections, like, it was about something that he had done that was wrong. Like, it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I've done this too. Like I've been wrong, and I've like, oh, you're too this, you're too, like I've said that in the past. I don't do this nearly as much anymore, but he was wrong. So he was saying, oh my God, you're too sensitive. Like, just get over it. And it's like, because he didn't want to come to terms with his behavior. So like that's, and it's like, I know that, I can see it. I was like, I can see you. I can see right through you. Like yelling. We were like having this argument. I was like, don't even try me. I can see your projection. I call your projection and I raise you. And like, I was just like,
I raised you my own projection. And I remember, as an ex of mine, we were in a car ride to a place, and I was expressing how a situation that transpired made me feel. And he looked me dead in the eye, and I'll never forget this moment in my life. And he said, can't you just shut up and just be? And so clearly we're not together, but.
Oh my God.
Yes, I can, but not with you.
Yeah. But looking back, that's because he did not have any of the tools or capacity to actually deal with what I was telling him about how something made me feel. So the easiest thing for him was to push it back on me and then run away, right? Yeah. And he did it in a very horrible way, but and that doesn't make an excuse, but that's why, what I was saying is you have to remember who you're talking to about things, and then remember that we all battle our own stuff inside. And so some of us have tools, some of us don't. And if we think that we need to get them, there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Totally.
Listen, I catch myself doing it with my daughter, and I'm saying, stop crying, you're being too sensitive. I'm like, oh, what did I just do? And then I have to backtrack it in 20 years. That's the damage that'll do when she's an adult, right? It's just, you become so aware of it, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm doing this. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
6 women on the internet coming together for intimate conversations about difficult topics. with soft hearts and strong voices. This is Red Lips and Mic Drops.
Red lips and mic drops, thick hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk. Red lips and mic drops, thick hips and lip gloss. I'm talking issues and our thoughts. The world's unfair, so let's talk.